Like I lose 10 pounds with that.
Yeah, that is.
All right, folks, 25 minutes after 1 o'clock, and it's always on a Thursday. We welcome Dr. Batson and Associates to talk holistic health. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Let me say a pleasant good afternoon to the listeners of Freedom 106.5 FM. Always a pleasure to be in your company discussing health. Of course, we discussing health from a natural and integrated perspective. And of course, I have with me one of our senior blood microscopists and consultants, Mr. Stefan Vialva. Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
Dr. Batson.
Good, good. So, last program, we had discussed a number of issues. We spoke a bit of hormonal imbalance. Today, of course, we're going to touch on diabetes because, at Batson and Associates, we do an integrative diabetic clinic. And, diabetes continues to be a concern for Trinidad and Tobago. We have a high percentage of diabetics as per capita. They estimate that at least 1/4 of our population is diabetic.
Yeah.
Of course, we have a lot of adolescent diabetics, and we see this on a daily basis at Batson and Associates. Keep in mind, we are live on our social media platforms. We are Batson and Associates Limited on Facebook. On Instagram, we are Batson and Associates TT. On YouTube, we are Batson and Associates Trinidad. And on TikTok, we are Batson and Associates. So you can always follow us there. A lot of information, a lot of our lives, are there. Keep in mind, too, our contact number for our major locations, which is Shogunas, which would, of course, direct you to any one of the other offices. That telephone number for Shogunas is 222-8261. That's 222-8261. And, of course, you can call and get information regarding any one of our locations. Keep in mind that the program is an interactive program, so I'd allow you to just remind the audience of the number or the contact, and then we'll go from there.
All right, folks, numbers, as always, for the topic of discussion. It's 627-3223 and 625-2257. Of course, feel free to send your WhatsApp messages only at 306-1065.
Nicely. So diabetes, diabetes continues to play a major role in the lives of a number of individuals, regardless of the type of diabetic you are, whether type 1, type 2 diabetes, which are, of course, are the major types of diabetes that you have to deal with. We, of course, have type 3 diabetes, which is gestational diabetes, which only happens during that gestation period, pregnancy. And because of the changes in hormones, you find that some women may have elevation in blood glucose levels and then issues in terms of insulin regulation, that type of thing. But dealing with the two main types of diabetes, type 1, which is insulin-dependent diabetes, and type 2, which is diabetes mellitus. Before I continue, Stefan, as a consultant microscopist at Batson and Associates, you are someone in the forefront dealing with blood, doing a lot of vitals with clients, consultation, that type of thing. How does the blood analysis assist you in assisting a diabetic client, especially as it relates to the complications associated with diabetes, poor circulation, neuropathy, that type of thing?
All right. So as it relates to the live blood analysis, one of the things that I look for, two things that I look for actually in the live blood analysis if a person is diabetic. RULO, which is poor circulation, because diabetes naturally creates poor circulation in the human body.
True.
Which also causes neuropathy due to lack of oxygen and blood flow to the nerves or neurological aspect of the body. And also I look at any indications of gluten as well to identify if that person is consuming a lot of flour and that type of refined carbohydrates as well.
Okay, good. In addition to that as well, too, when we do the blood analysis, I always tell persons, especially with the dry blood, we always look at the biological terrain. Yes. And with diabetics, you always find that they have high levels of inflammatory response in the body, a lot of stress, high levels of cortisol, which of course could actually be indicated by that dry blood analysis where you see that high levels of oxidation. So, with that, you find that the client now understands what it is they're dealing with, because that's one of the things we do at Batson Associates. Information is paramount, because you have persons who are diabetic and they don't understand why their blood sugar not going down. They following the rules, they may be exercising, they have made some changes in the diet, they're looking at their meals, they have lessened, their flour intake and that type of thing. Yet still, the blood sugar levels are still elevated. And, at Batson and Associates, our objective is to really show the root cause of the problem. Because even though you may be diabetic, there are a number of things that could have contributed and continue to contribute to making your situation worse.
That's right.
Right? And one of the things we do at Batson and Associates, of course, is alleviate those complications associated with diabetes. As you so rightfully said, you see a lot of Rolo. We also see a lot of erythrocyte aggregation, and in both instances, that is high indication of oxidative stress, lack of oxygen to the cells. And of course, we know the body works from the basic aspect of cells give you tissues, tissues give you organs, organs give you organ systems, and organ systems give you the body. So to the persons listening out there, we encourage you, if you are a diabetic, and you may be type 1 diabetic, so you may be using insulin, and you're not getting the results that you would like, because we know with insulin, a lot of times you have complications associated with that.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Well, with insulin, firstly, if you are diabetic, let's just say, for example, type 2 diabetic, you have to have a strict diet, because diet is one of the things that will help to reverse the diabetes at that point. Type 1 diabetes is a bit more challenging,
Right.
because of the insulin dependencies.
True.
So you have to cut off all carbs whatsoever. You could have things like sweet potatoes, because it's on the low glycemic index,
Right.
but very in portions as well, because you don't want to overdo.
Good.
Always maintain and check your glucose levels to see the sensitivities, because
Definitely.
persons' bodies are different.
Correct.
And some persons may consume some sweet potato and they will have a spike, and some others they may not.
Correct.
So one of those things you have to be very mindful of. Check your blood pressure every day as well, because it will affect your blood circulation. So you will have an elevation in blood pressure at times. And exercise is also mandatory as well, as it relates to diabetes.
Definitely, definitely. At Batson Associates, we do carry protocols and programs designed specifically for diabetics, whether type 1, type 2, even gestational diabetic as well. One of the things that we always focus on, of course, is that aspect of digestion and proper assimilation of food, because that in itself also plays a significant role in what your blood sugar readings would really look like.
That's right.
Right. So, of course, feel free to give us a call or visit those telephone numbers again. And
I do have 2 questions.
Okay, go ahead. That's not going to come to you. Thanks.
Okay. How often should you take a Santulan cleanse? I had 2 packs, one after the other.
Okay, good. Okay, so Santulan is 7-channel detox that we carry at Batson Associates. We usually recommend, in most instances, you do 4 packs, which essentially lasts you a month. So if you would have done 2 already, what you could do is you rest for the 2-week period, and then you do the next month, you could do the other 2. That cleansing has a lot to do with the needs of the client, in the sense that, let's say, for example, you work in oil and gas, you work in a gas station, you may be an auto mechanic, you may be someone who doing hairdressing. So your job entails dealing with a lot of chemicals or chemical exposure on a daily basis. You might be a painter, you might be someone who does agriculture, and cleansing and detoxifying is very important for persons like that, because you are exposed to chemicals that are carcinogenic, which is cancer causing. Currently, we do treat a number of persons with prostate cancer, and of the clients that we have with prostate cancer, at least 50% of them are gardeners. They're involved in spraying and those type of things. So the cleanse is dependent on individuals, but generally we usually recommend that you use 4 packs. And then when you finish that, you could do it 6 months afterwards. But everyone is different, and you could always call and get the necessary information where that is concerned. Next question.
Next question is, good afternoon. I have type 2 diabetes, poor circulation, high cholesterol, and anemia. Can I take a raisin cleanse for the liver?
You want to take it?
Yes. As it relates to the raisin cleanse, is good for the liver. However, that person will definitely have to come in for a consultation, because of the many issues that she has at this time, especially where cholesterol is present as well. So definitely, with the consultation, we will go more in depth and explain further information, give her more information as it relates to her diet and what she needs to do on a daily basis and all of those things.
Good. And just to add to that, when you're looking at, especially if you're anemic, and the thing is, anemia is, a lot of persons don't know that there are different types of anemia.
That's right.
And you find that within recent time, I personally have found that a lot of persons coming to us have that situation, especially women who have challenges with their menstrual cycle, hormonal imbalance. They often bleed, they have very heavy menstrual cycles. So anyone who is anemic or displays some sort of sign or symptom associated with anemia, definitely that is going to require a consultation so that we can, of course, dot our I's and cross our T's as regards to those things.
Correct.
So again, quickly, that telephone number that you can call 222-8261. That's 222-8261. And of course, Debe is 223-7515. That's 223-7515. Any questions again, sir?
That's it for now.
Okay, good. Right. So let me, of course, say again a pleasant good afternoon to our social media followers. Let me say good afternoon to Miss Cindy Hoyt, Miss Elizabeth Mary. Keep in mind, we are live on our social media platforms. We are Batson and Associates Limited on Facebook. On Instagram, we are Batson and Associates TT. On YouTube, we are Batson and Associates Trinidad. And on TikTok, it's Batson and Associates. You're listening to Dr. Jason Batson, the Senior Medical Director at Batson and Associates. And of course, joined with our senior blood microscopist and consultant, Mr. Stefan Vialva, and we're discussing diabetes. Of course, keep in mind, when you're looking at diabetes as well, the complications associated with diabetes is always more concerning to me. Being a practitioner for the past 14 years, when you look at diabetic clients, diabetic patients, there are certain things that you need to do to take back control of your life. That's the way I put it. Because diabetes is something that if you behave very nonchalant, if you don't really take certain things into consideration, you could reach a point where you could end up an amputee, you could end up with problems associated with blindness. Let's touch on that, for example. In your experience, Mr. Vialva, especially, doing the blood analysis, doing the magnetic resonance analysis, which gives us the opportunity to actually look at circulation in its entirety, especially circulation in the cerebral hemisphere or the brain. How are you able to help clients, especially with issues associated with eye health?
So firstly, as it relates to the eye health, one of the main and foundational aspect is to improve blood circulation in that hemisphere of the brain.
Good.
And to the eyes as well, because when you have circulation issues, it affects the optic nerves in the eyes.
Correct.
And that causes bleeding in the back of the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that will cause visual impairment eventually. So as it relates to diabetes, you always have to maintain a low glucose level.
Mm-hmm.
Eat the right foods, use things that are low on the glycemic index. Again, test your blood sugar so you can see your sensitivities, because everybody's body is different.
Correct.
And you also want to manage your stress levels, because even if you're eating healthy and exercising, as Dr. Batson mentioned earlier, it will elevate, because of cortisol levels, it will elevate your glucose levels there as well.
Definitely. One of the things too as well, we carry our eye drop at Batson Associates called Eye Optics Formula. And the purpose of that eye drop, which we use in a lot of our diabetic clients, is to improve blood circulation, not only in the eyes, but in the brain, itself. And in addition to that, it actually helps with reducing inflammation in the eyes.
Correct.
Because someone who is diabetic, once you have detached retina or bleeding behind the eyes, you actually have serious inflammation in the back of the eyes.
Yes.
So that's something that you need to pay very, very close attention to. So if you are a diabetic, of course, your regular eye test is something that you should make sure and ensure that you do your visual field test, your OCT scans, those type of things, to actually see the back of the eye to determine the levels of inflammation. Because once you're a diabetic, and especially a diabetic that is on insulin, especially, your eye is going to start to take a toll. And it's very important that you understand, the relationship between those things, so that you, of course, could have improvement and not reach the point where you could actually lose your eyes. I mean, I tell people it's a very difficult thing to to come into this world seeing, and then as an adult to lose your eyesight. I find that a very difficult thing to have to deal with. So the old people have a saying, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And that is, of course, what Batson Associates is here for. So, feel free to call, give us a visit, and get information regarding our integrative diabetes program, which not only assists with the blood sugar, the improvement in blood sugar readings, but also helps with a number of things, improving your digestion, improving circulation in the body in its extremity. Because one of the problems that diabetics have is that they have a lot of issues with poor circulation or what is referred to as microcirculation.
Yes.
Right? So, you mentioned diabetic neuropathy, which is when the nerves themselves become damaged. So persons who are diabetic, you often find that you have tingling, pins and needles, cramping in your calves, burning under your feet. All right, so that is something that, of course, you need to pay very close attention to. So again, those telephone numbers and locations, we are located on the first floor of Money Talks building. That is Money Talks building in Montrose, Chaguanas. And that telephone number is 222-8261. That's 222-8261. Debe is the corner. Debe is the corner of Ramsonwood Trace and the SS Erie Main Road in Debe. That telephone number is 223-7515. That's 223-7515. And of course, St. James is Red Edge Mall, Western Main Road, St. James. That number for St. James is 220. That's 220-8113. 220-8113. Any more questions as yet, sir?
Oh yes, well, I recently took a flight and I was previewing hearing a conversation a lady was having over the phone. She said, well, her blood sugar levels going to 200. She's tried everything. She come in to get some help. I didn't have time to give her information or anything. But what could be done? Like you were just talking about the blood sugar levels, controlling the blood sugar level. What is something that she may be doing wrong?
Okay. One of the things that a lot of persons, don't really pay attention to, as Mr. Villalva so rightfully said, testing your blood sugar throughout specific periods of time and identifying your sensitivities, because a lot of persons don't react to foods the same. Someone might eat English potato, which we know has a very high glycemic index, and that in itself sends up your blood sugar. But someone else might eat it, and it might elevate the sugar, but not as high as the other person. So it's a matter of really, doing some level of experimentation, for a better, want of a better word, where you're actually now looking at your numbers, making changes in your diet. Hydration is also a big part of diabetes. A lot of persons with diabetes do not drink sufficient amounts of water. The rule for drinking water, I always tell persons, is your body weight divided by 2 ounces. So for ease of maths, if you weigh 160 pounds, half of 160 is 80. 80 ounces in liters would carry you something like about 2.4 liters or just over 2 liters of water. So in those instances, if they make those adjustments, you will begin to see the blood sugar levels beginning to normalize. One of the other things too as well, some persons need assistance where supplementation is concerned, because a lot of them have various vitamin, mineral deficiencies. A lot of persons have problems with magnesium, sodium, potassium, and all of those contribute to that whole aspect of blood sugar and blood regulation. So, as I said, that's one of the things we do at Batson Associates. So if you could, of course, anyone message or get some additional information, because we do online consultations and that type of thing. So we live in the information age. Anyone connectivity is very important now. So anyone could be helped. It's just a matter of getting the information, setting up the appointment, and then following through on that. And again, that is something that we do at Batson Associates. So that number again, 222-8261. That's 222-8261. Let me, of course, make mention of our upcoming health fair that we're going to be having, and that is going to actually be at the Debe office, and that is coming the last Saturday in Debe. I'll check the date, the last Saturday, sorry, in October. I'm going to check that date just now for you. That is something that, of course, persons could actually avail themselves of. And you might be hearing about Batson Associates, you're hearing Dr. Batson, you're hearing Mr. Villalva. That would be a good opportunity to actually come down and, see an example of what a blood analysis is, see, what a consultation is involved, so that you yourself would be able to benefit. Keep in mind, even though we're discussing diabetes, we deal with a number of different issues. I'm seeing a question here on Instagram where someone is asking about eye pressure, which is glaucoma, and they're mentioning that the right eye is 22, the left eye is 23. So they want to know how they could actually reduce that. The thing is, when you're looking at ocular pressure has a lot to do with circulation again in the brain. If you do not have proper cerebral circulation, you are going to have a high ocular pressure, or what is referred to as glaucoma. And if it is not checked or dealt with, you can actually reach a point where you can actually go blind. I know of individuals who actually went blind while they sleep. It was temporary blindness, thank God, but at the same time, there was some damage done to the eyes, and that is something that you would want to monitor. And that's something that we also do as well at Batson and Associates.
Dr. Batson, one of the things dealing with clients as well as it relates to glaucoma that I've seen is that sometimes the ocular pressure has reduced. It might probably be under 18
Right.
or 18.
Right.
But because of that prolonged period of time that the ocular pressure was so high,
Right.
it already caused nerve damage.
Nerve damage,
So
correct.
even though the pressure has reduced,
Good.
nerve damage is there,
Right.
the person will still have some visual impairment.
Good, very well said. And that is where the entire protocol comes in terms of rehabilitation and that type of thing. Good. Any questions again, sir?
No questions at the moment.
Okay, good. Again, keep in mind we are live on our social media platform. So if you have a question that you want to ask on Facebook, and you can message us. We are Batson Associates Limited on Facebook. On Instagram, we are Batson Associates TT. We actually have a question here where someone says, will those eye drops support reducing pressure for those who aren't diabetic? The answer is yes. Because that eye drop, as I said, it's an all-natural eye drop, non-steroid. And what it is really designed to do is to improve blood circulation in the cerebral hemisphere. So the thing is, you do not necessarily have to be a diabetic to have glaucoma. You do not necessarily have to be a diabetic to even have poor circulation. And you do not even have to be a diabetic to have neuropathy, which is nerve damage associated with poor circulation. So there are a number of people who you are not a diabetic, but you may have problems with varicose veins, or the medical term is varicosis. You may have problems with spider veins. You may have problems with clots. So you might have some sort of vein thrombosis, or you may have, you did a Doppler, which is an ultrasound of the legs, and it shows that you have some sort of clot. And of course, that's something that you need to deal with as soon as possible, because it is an indication of serious issues associated with a compromised cardiovascular circulatory system. So, as I always tell persons, your body speaks to you. Our body speaks to us. Unfortunately, some of us, we may not know, we may not understand the language, or we might need some translation. But usually, if you think something is wrong, and you're feeling that something is wrong, believe me, something is definitely wrong. So it's just a matter of, getting some necessary information. Pay attention to yourself. I always tell persons, headaches, for example, are a clear indicator that something is wrong, especially if you have headaches in different parts of the brain. So in other words, you don't have a whole headache. Your whole head is not hurting you. You might find you have problems with pain to the front, so more to your forehead or close to your temple. You might find you have pain concentrated to the back of your neck. That's usually a clear giveaway with hypertension or some sort of poor circulation in the brain. Memory problems. So you might find, you're not as sharp as you used to, not long-term memory, but short-term. So not where you went to school, where you grew up, when you're married, those type of things. You'll remember that. But short-term memory, what you went to the refrigerator for, what you went to the cupboard for, where you rest your keys. You might now meet somebody, you get introduced, you can't remember the name, those type of things. Dizziness as well. Dizziness is a clear indication of poor cerebral circulation, and it is usually early warning signs of strokes, because you have different types of strokes. You have ischemic strokes, which are primarily lack of blood flow to the brain, lack of oxygen, and you have hemorrhagic strokes, which are of course worse, where those are actually bleeding strokes, where rupturing of blood vessels have actually taken place. You wanted to add anything there?
Yes, want to share two things. One of them is the neuropathy
Right.
in the peripheral area of the body, which is the legs and the hands, etc.
Right.
And a lot of persons can get neuropathy also because of poor posture and
Correct.
loss of lordosis in the spine.
Right.
So compression of the spine could pinch the nerve, and you can get peripheral neuropathy in those extremities of the body.
Excellent point.
As well as you can also get pain in the back of the neck, not only from hypertension, but also because of high levels of stress. Because stress, in order for the muscle to cope with stress, it has to contract and tighten,
Right.
which will cause the fibers to then lock together, and you will have poor circulation going to the brain again.
Good, good, very good point. And that's one of the things, you know, I often tell persons that back problems have nothing to do with your back, in so much so as it relates to the entire spinal column, because you know a lot of persons, with your cervical vertebrae, which is primarily by your neck there, C1 to C7, then of course you have your thoracic, T1 to T12, and then your lumbar, L1 to L5. A lot of persons have herniation of those discs where they actually press, and you find that that fluid in between is not there to really cushion. The thing is, contrary to popular belief, you can actually do protocols, dietary protocols, especially various exercises to actually correct that. However, what a lot of persons do not understand, and I've seen this over the years, Mr. Villalba, a lot of persons do not understand that when you're doing those therapies, they must be done simultaneously.
Yes, that's
The
right.
dietary aspect as well as the physiotherapy aspect has to be done together. If you don't do them together, you would not get the level of success and the level of results that you're looking for. Right. And again, that's something we do at Batson Associates. So, of course, feel free to give us a call again or visit. Those telephone numbers are.
Yeah. Our Shigona's telephone contact, which is located upstairs Money Talks building, is 222-8261. That's 222-8261. Our Davie office is located on the corner of Ramsumwood Street on the SS area Main Road. And the contact is 223-7515. That's 223-7515. Our St. James location is in the Red Edge Mall in St. James. The contact number is 220-8113. That's 220-8113. And our Tobago location is located in Scarborough, Tobago, in the Triangle Building. And that's 226-4553. That's 226-4553.
Good. Thank you so very much for that. Keep it.
Question.
Yes,
Another
sir.
question. All right, what about, can you do anything for children? There are children with diabetes. Any of your products are good for children?
Children. Very good question. Yeah, we actually, the youngest diabetic client that we have currently is 4 years, 5 years. Right. And yeah, and they have gotten some very, very good results. We were actually able to reduce the insulin. When they went back to the clinic, they actually reduced the insulin significantly, so much so that they use a small portion of insulin. We did a lot of work with the nutrition, a lot of work with the diet. So we do deal with children who are diabetic. And you know, I will tell any parent who has a child who is diabetic, you can make a significant correction to your child's life where that is concerned, because you know this is not being critical of anyone. If you have a child that is on insulin for an extended period of time, that child is not going to be a healthy child. Because remember, as a child, development is taking place.
That's right.
Now, the development is going to be hindered because of this issue associated with elevated glucose levels and, of course, the introduction of insulin. You know, so a child, let's say you have a 5-year-old child who's on insulin. By about 5 years after that, which means the child is going to be about 10, you're going to have developmental problems, you're going to have eye problems. The possibility exists they're going to have to be wearing glasses, or if not partially blind already. You know, there are a number of issues that you're going to have to deal with. So, you know, that is something that we do deal with quite successfully. It requires some work, especially when the parents are concerned. But, I mean, is your child you're talking about, and you want to ensure that that child gets the best opportunity to have, you know, the best development and future that you could possibly provide for them. And, of course, changes would be necessary in order for that to be done. So, most certainly, you could give us a call or visit as regards to children as well. What we also do as well, we do deal with children with eczema. That is becoming a huge problem. We have a high client list with that right now. A lot of children, even babies. So I'm speaking about children 6 months, 8 months, a year and a half, that have really bad eczema. And of course, you know, you have to keep in mind that when you're dealing with very young children, Yes, medication would be recommended. However, I mean, if we to give a child that is 18 months steroids, I mean, I'm going to question that, because you always take into consideration the after. So those parents of you, or parents rather, who have children in those types of situations, you can reach out to us, and of course the doors are open, but because you really, really need to pay very, very close attention to that. Yeah, of course.
All right. So as it relates to kids with eczema, now there's two ways actually in which eczema could be present on the external aspect of the epidermis.
Right.
And one of that way is for like smaller kids, newborn and all of those things, as it relates to vaccination. Because of heavy metals in those vaccination,
Right.
it can cause issues with the skin,
With the skin,
and
right.
cause a flare up there, as well as toxicity. If that child is getting some issues in terms of constipation, you can also get eczema on the external part of the skin as well.
Good, definitely. And again, that is something that that we have dealt with quite successfully, because with children with that, you have to put on stuff so that they don't scratch. But I mean, they find ways to take off those socks. I've seen it already. So I know there are a lot of parents, mothers out there. You have a lot of problems with the crying and the screaming, because the child is not in a situation where they're comfortable. So that is something that you could of course, feel free to give us a call or visit. Keep in mind again that health seminar that we'll be having, that is actually at our daily office, and that is carded for the 28th, Saturday, the 28th of October. Of course, keep in mind again that we are live on our social media platform, so you can actually check it out there as well. That's going to be Saturday, 28th of October. That's at the daily office, and that telephone number for that daily office again is 223-7515. That's 223-7515. You have to get listed for that, because we're going to have a lot of persons. So again, that symposium that we'll be having is going to be a health fair, basically, and that's taking place on Saturday, the 28th of October at our daily office. And that telephone number again is 223-7515. So whether your issue is hormonal imbalance, you have problems with diabetes, poor circulation, you have eye problems, whatever it is, once we deal with human beings, we don't have an issue. Feel free, of course, to give us a call or visit. Any questions again to this?
Yes. If you are pre-diabetic, what precautions should you take of not becoming a diabetic?
Good question. You want to take that, Stefan?
Yeah, definitely. Diet and exercise. Because pre-diabetes is way more easier to reverse than type 2 and type 1 diabetes.
Excellent.
You're actually on the borderline there of having a elevated HbA1c. So diet, exercise, eat the right foods, which we will provide at Batson Associates. She could come and visit us for consultation as well. And then, 3 months after that day, you go back and do another HbA1c, and the results will be present.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I couldn't say it better. Though that's when you want to catch it. I mean, we have helped persons. I've seen type 1 diabetics significantly come off insulin. There are some of them don't use insulin again for years. We have had type 2 diabetics who are using things like metformin, 4 metformin a day, in some cases 6 metformin, 2 in the morning, 2 lunchtime, and 2 in the night. And in some cases, they also use that with additional hypoglycemic agents. And we have had persons where they no longer have that situation. So as Mr. Villalba so rightfully said, when you're pre-diabetic, you're early in the game. It's very, very easy to reverse that and get yourself in a gear so that you don't end up with problems. Trinidad and Tobago, we're not looking good with diabetes. We right now are one of the highest per capita in the world, where not only adolescent diabetes is concerned, but also adolescent obesity. We have too many fat children in this country. I'm not attempting to be facetious in any way or condescending, but that is the fact. And, we're essentially killing our children. So, that is something that we work on, and, we'll continue to provide support. But of course, you have to come first to be able to do that for you. So again, those telephone numbers and locations. We are located on the first floor of Money Talks building. That's Money Talks building in Montrose, Chaguanas. That telephone number is 222-8261. That's 222-8261. Keep in mind our health fair that we're having at our daily office, and that's going to be on Saturday, the 28th of October. So note that Date Saturday, 28th of October. Of course, we'll be doing others in different locations, but Debe is going to be the 28th of October, Saturday, 28th. And that telephone number, of course, is 223. That's 223-7515. 223-7515. St. James is Red Edge Mall, Western Main Road, St. James. That number for St. James is 220-8113. 220-8113. And Tobago, of course, is the Triangle Building in Scarborough, Tobago. That number is 226-4553. As we always say at Batson and Associates, if you think health is expensive,
try sickness.
If you think education is expensive,
try ignorance.
To the listeners of Freedom 106.5 FM, always a pleasure to be in your company. Be safe on the road this wet Thursday. Sir, always a pleasure. Till next week. Take care, man.
All right, thank you very much, sir. All right. Nice, man. Of course, you've been listening to Batson and Associates right here on Freedom 106.5. We're coming back.
The race for the kids is on October 15th. And if you're not...
Yes, my friends. So, social media, let me say, of course, a pleasant good afternoon to all the lovely persons on our social media. Altia Owen, Marie Francilia, Cindy Hoyt, always a pleasure to have you. Miss Elizabeth Mary, Karishma Ramdan, one of our consultants there, Miss Cindy Hoyt. Cindy come on the live and Cindy calling honey me. Cindy, rain falling in Trinidad, you know. Marcia Letrin, pleasant good afternoon to you. So, guys, keep in mind, Saturday, the 28th of October, Debe office. All roads lead to Debe, and that's going to be Batson Associates Health Fair, where we cater in specifically for that community. So we're going to do a lot of work down there. So get your information, get listed. Those telephone numbers, again, of course, you can call for the Debe office. It's 223-7515. That's 223-7515. It's going to be posted up on our social media, so you can take advantage of that. And of course, feel free to give us a visit. So, of course, we're going to take a break now, and we're going to join DJ Mamu on djmamuradiott.com in a short while, and we'll have that program for an hour. And, of course, we'll be discussing, again, health from a natural and integrated perspective. You've been listening to Dr. Jason Batson and, of course, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Stefan Vialva. And see you in a little bit. Take care, guys.
Take care.